He buried his baby, but then a barefoot boy appeared on his porch and whispered, "Your baby is still alive." What would you do if a stranger, homeless, unheard, unseen, told you something that shattered everything you thought was true? This isn't just a story about grief. It's a story about miracles, mystery, and a man whose life was saved by a child no one believed existed. Before we begin, tell me, do you believe angels walk among us? Comment yes or no and where you're watching from. And stay with us, because what happens next will leave you speechless. Jackson Vale had everything a man could want: wealth, power, prestige. His name was engraved on skyscrapers. He didn't cry at board meetings, losses, or even when he buried both his parents. But now, he sat in a wrinkled pink dress shirt, sleeves rolled up, tie long discarded, staring at the tiny casket in front of him. It was the first time in years he felt completely powerless. The casket rested atop the porch of his grand southern estate, white pillars standing like silent mourners beside him. Inside, nestled in velvet lining, lay his 6-month-old daughter, Ava, his light, his unexpected joy. Born late in life, she had cracked open his guarded heart. And now, just like that, she was gone. Or so he believed. The guests had left. His wife, sedated, lay in the upstairs bedroom, unreachable in her grief. Staff kept their distance. And Jackson couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't even cry anymore. The only sound was the gentle creak of the porch swing rocking in the breeze, and the low hum of cicadas. Then came the voice. "Your baby is still alive." Jackson blinked. Thought he imagined it. Slowly, he turned his head. Standing a few feet away was a young black boy, no older than 6. His shirt was stained, his pants too short. He was barefoot, and his skin looked dry from the sun. But his eyes were wide, clear, and impossibly steady. "What did you just say?" Jackson asked, not even sure if the words had left his mouth. The boy took a step closer, pointing directly at the casket. "She's not dead." Jackson felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Who are you?" he demanded. "I'm Micah," the boy replied simply. "She's still breathing. You gotta help her." Everything in Jackson wanted to dismiss him, chalk it up to grief, to madness. But his gut twisted. Something about the way Micah said it, calm, certain, unsettled him. Slowly, cautiously, Jackson rose to his feet and walked toward the casket. He leaned over, brushing the baby's soft cheek with the back of his finger. That's when he heard it, a faint gurgle. Ava's lips moved. Her chest shifted, ever so slightly. Jackson stumbled back, breath stolen from his lungs. "She's alive," he whispered. Micah didn't smile. He just nodded. Panic surged through Jackson's chest as he scooped up Ava in his arms, her skin warm, her breath shallow but real. With trembling hands, he called 911. "She's alive, my daughter's alive. Get here now." His voice cracked in a way he hadn't heard in decades. Paramedics arrived within minutes. Ava was rushed to the hospital, and Jackson rode in the back of the ambulance, gripping her tiny hand like it was his only anchor to reality. The doctors later explained that Ava had suffered a rare seizure that induced a deep coma-like state, mimicking death. Had she been buried, she wouldn't have survived. That night, Jackson didn't sleep. His mind couldn't stop replaying those 5 words, "Your baby is still alive." The next morning, he returned to the porch. The tiny casket was gone, the porch still as ever, but Jackson wasn't looking for his daughter this time. He was looking for the boy. "Micah," he called, stepping off the porch, walking toward the back fields near the river. "Micah, where are you?" The sun was still rising, casting golden light across the tall grass. Jackson walked toward the old barn on the edge of the property. A forgotten structure long since abandoned. And there, just for a moment, he saw him. Micah stood barefoot near the edge of the barn's broken doorway. His small hands were tucked behind his back, and he watched Jackson without fear, like he already knew he'd come. Jackson jogged closer. "How did you know?" he asked breathlessly. "How did you know she was alive?" Micah shrugged. "I just did. She was calling." "Calling?" Jackson tilted his head. "You heard her?" Micah didn't answer. He simply smiled, turned toward the barn, and vanished inside. Jackson rushed forward, but the barn was empty. No sign of anyone living there. Just cobwebs, dust, broken beams. No bedding. No footprints. Nothing. Confused and unsettled, Jackson called the sheriff, hoping for answers. No missing kids matched the description. No records. Nobody named Micah from nearby neighborhoods. As Jackson stood in the field, eyes darting across the empty horizon, one truth settled in his bones. That boy wasn't ordinary. That boy was sent. Jackson Vale wasn't the kind of man who let things go. Whether it was a hostile takeover or a market mystery, if something didn't make sense, he dug until it did. And this was personal. Too personal. Who was Micah? How did he know Ava was alive? And where did he vanish to? The day after Ava was discharged from the hospital, Jackson began his search. He sent his staff combing through camera footage, property logs, neighborhood security systems. He contacted nearby shelters, foster centers, even old church orphanages. Nothing. No boy matching that description. No recent runaways. No one named Micah. Frustrated, Jackson hired private investigators. He even offered a reward on local radio for information about a boy seen near the Vale estate. Days turned into weeks. Each lead fizzled into dust. But Jackson couldn't shake it. That moment on the porch. Ava breathing again. Micah's voice so calm, so confident. One evening, he returned to the old barn with a flashlight in hand. The moon cast silver streaks across the broken wood panels. As he stepped inside, he whispered, "Micah." Silence. Just dust floating in beams of moonlight. A creaking door. The cold chill of wind wrapping around his neck. Then, something on the wall. A faded chalk drawing, barely visible, a lion. Jackson stepped closer. His heart thudded. That same lion. The one Ava was now oddly obsessed with drawing. The same shape she doodled without being taught. The same face carved into the small wooden toy she'd mysteriously found by the river. The next day, Jackson visited a small-town church on the outskirts of the county. An elderly janitor saw the sketch in Jackson's hand and squinted. "That's Micah's lion," he said. "I remember that boy." Jackson leaned in. "You know him?" The man nodded slowly. "Sweet kid. Lived down by the river with his mom. They kept to themselves. She died in a fire. He wandered off. Got caught in a storm 2 winters back. They said he froze. No one found him, till spring." Jackson went cold. "He's dead?" The old man nodded. "Years now." Jackson sat motionless in his car afterward, the world tilting sideways. Micah wasn't just a boy. He was a miracle. Or a message. Jackson Vale was never the same after learning Micah had died years before saving Ava's life. He tried to process it with logic, but no spreadsheet, no ledger, no business model could explain how a dead child appeared on his porch to whisper the truth. Jackson, once a man of numbers and acquisitions, was now a man wrestling with the invisible. And yet, he knew one thing with absolute clarity: he owed Micah everything. So he began where all real change starts, by giving. Within months, Jackson liquidated one of his commercial real estate portfolios and poured the funds into something new, the Micah Foundation. Its purpose was simple but urgent. Rescue, feed, and uplift homeless children in forgotten places, places where nobody was looking. He built shelters, not the cold, overcrowded types that made headlines, but warm, dignified spaces with beds, books, meals, and counselors. He sent search teams into alleys, beneath bridges, into abandoned barns like the one Micah had haunted. No child would go unseen again. His boardroom colleagues were stunned. "You're doing what with your money?" Jackson didn't explain. He didn't owe them one. Instead, he traveled. Quietly. Visiting shelters. Talking to kids. Watching boys with bare feet smile for the first time in years. And every time he saw a lion drawing or heard the name Micah whispered in a child's dream, he felt a chill, and a strange comfort. Years passed. And then one warm afternoon, he stood at the grand opening of the Foundation's largest shelter yet, Micah House. A crowd had gathered. The press showed up. Ava, now 6 years old, stood beside him, holding the ribbon. As he stepped up to the microphone, he paused, heart swelling. Behind him, engraved on a marble plaque at the shelter's entrance, were the words, "For the boy who reminded me what life really means." He didn't cry. Not this time. He looked up at the sky, and for a brief moment, he swore he saw a small boy standing in the crowd, barefoot, smiling, lion toy in hand. When he blinked, the boy was gone. But Jackson knew better. Micah was there. He always had been. The years moved forward, but Jackson Vale never forgot the boy who had turned his life upside down, and saved it all at once. Ava had grown into a bright, curious child with her mother's warmth and her father's intensity. She was obsessed with drawing lions. Not cartoons, but the same shape every time, strong jaw, tilted head, wild mane. "He's always smiling," she once said. Jackson never corrected her. He couldn't. Something inside him believed that she had seen him too, or maybe still did. One warm autumn afternoon, just before sunset, Jackson and Ava went walking near the old riverbank behind the estate. The golden hour bathed the trees in soft amber light, casting long shadows across the water. Ava ran ahead, giggling, skipping stones across the stream. Jackson walked slowly, hands in pockets, his heart full but always aching. Then Ava stopped. She turned around, holding something in her small hands. "Daddy," she said, "a boy gave me this." Jackson's brow furrowed as he stepped closer. It was a small wooden lion, hand-carved, aged, its paint barely hanging on. Micah's lion. The exact one Jackson remembered from the chalk sketch in the barn. The same shape Ava had drawn over and over since she could hold a crayon. Jackson's chest tightened. "Where is he?" Ava turned and pointed. "Right there," she said simply. Jackson followed her gaze. There, across the river, just at the edge of the trees, stood a barefoot boy. Dark skin. Worn clothes. Eyes that looked straight through time. He wasn't waving. He wasn't moving. Just standing, as if waiting to be seen. Jackson whispered, "Micah." The boy smiled. Not with teeth, but with peace. With purpose. A breeze picked up. Leaves swirled. Ava blinked, and he was gone. Just footprints in the soft dirt where he had stood. Small, bare prints that led, nowhere. Jackson dropped to one knee and pulled Ava into a hug, tears finally falling down his cheeks. "You saw him, didn't you?" She nodded against his chest. He said thank you. Jackson looked up at the glowing sky, heart thudding. Sometimes angels don't need wings. They just need to be seen.